Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to today's reading from Brilliant as the Sun, a retelling of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Part 1, with verse Pilgrimage. We are reading from Chapter 3, the Lord's Pastimes out of Vrindavan, and we will conclude this chapter today. Verses 11 to 12, Chapter 3. Many other malevolent kings were slain, such as Shambhara, Dvivida, Bana, Mura, Balval, and Dantvakra. Some Krishna killed personally, and others were slain by Balaram or by Krishna's devotees, such as the Pandavas. Still, the world remained burdened by many more warlike monarchs and their vast armies. They were so numerous that the earth would tremble when they marched into battle. Krishna arranged to kill all these soldiers along with their kings on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Verse 13. In that terrible war in which millions of warriors died, Prince Duryodhan, the leader of the demonic forces, was defeated along with his brother Dushasan, his dear friend Karan, and his maternal uncle Shakuni, who had all been his close advisors. Although Krishna advised Bhim how to defeat Duryodhan, the Lord was saddened to see him lying on the ground with his body smashed. Krishna awards just punishments to the living entities, but he is never pleased to see them suffer. At the end of the battle of Kurukshetra, this is from verses 14 to 15 now, the Lord considered the situation. The earth's burden of impious military forces was finally removed, yet he knew she would soon experience an even more unbearable burden. When he ended his pastimes and withdrew his family members, the earth would feel the terrible pain of their separation. How though would his family, the Yadus, leave this world? No force on earth could kill them, nor was there any likelihood of their death by natural causes. Their departure would only be possible if he arranged for them to quarrel and fight amongst themselves. So this is a very important line. I'll repeat it. So how though would his family, the Yadus, leave this world? This is Krishna's dilemma thinking there. No force on earth could kill them. How come? Because they were all the descendants of the Lord himself. Nor was there any likelihood of their death by natural causes, because they were all transcendental. So their departure would only be possible if he arranged for them, that is, Krishna arranged for his family to quarrel and fight amongst themselves. Verses 16 to 17 now. In the meantime, however, Krishna enthroned King Yudhishthir as the emperor so that he could demonstrate an ideal pious administration. Shortly before the coronation, Duryodhan's surviving commander Ashwathama attempted to avenge his master by slaying the unborn child of Abhimanyu, the son of Yudhishthir's brother Arjun. The great hero Abhimanyu had died valiantly in the war, and his wife Uttara was pregnant with his child, the last remaining heir of the Puru dynasty. Knowing this, Ashwathama released the powerful Brahmastra weapon and destroyed the embryo, but Krishna at once entered her womb and restored the baby to life, remaining there to protect him until the danger had passed. Now verse 18 from chapter 3 of Canto 3. On Krishna's advice, King Yudhishthir performed 3 expiatory horse sacrifices. Then for many years he ruled the earth, assisted by his younger brothers, and in conformity to Krishna's will, the Lord desires that the living entities in this world revive their eternal loving relationship with him and return to his spiritual kingdom at the end of their lives. As the ideal monarch, King Yudhishthir governed according to this principle. Consequently, the world flourished under his administration. Verse 19, Krishna ruled over Dwarka as a subordinate king under Yudhishthir's regime. He gave the ideal example of how a person detached from worldly pleasures and fixed in spiritual knowledge should enjoy life strictly in accordance with the religious principles. Verse 20 to 21, the Lord, whose beautiful body is purely spiritual and whose character is flawless, enjoyed affectionate exchanges, smiling glances, and sweet words with his pure devotees on earth as well as with the gods. He displayed special attachment for his family members, the Yadus, as well as for his wives with whom he met in the leisure hour afforded by night. Verse 22, Krishna lived happily for many years with his wives, although completely aloof from worldly enjoyment. As the universal teacher, he remained the householder to teach others how to behave in married life. However, towards the end of his manifest pastimes, he fully exhibited his detachment. Verse 23, Uddhav sighed, materialistic people cannot accept that Krishna's apparently sensual activities are in fact transcendental because they are controlled by Devi Maya, the Lord's powerful material energy. They think Krishna is also material energy. Only Krishna's devotees can understand the spiritual nature of Krishna's activities. Vidur agreed. What you say is true. Unintelligent people believe Krishna and his associates are ordinary conditioned souls. For example, I have heard some people argue that in offending the sages, his sons were influenced by the modes of passion and ignorance. Uddhav frowned. This is their foolishness, Vidur. The cursing of the Yadu princes by the sages was Krishna's transcendental pastimes. It was all Krishna's leelas. Before departing this world, he wanted to graphically illustrate the dangers of offending his devotees. Please tell me exactly what happened. Listen and I will describe everything. So Uddhav is describing everything to Vidur. Verse 24 now, Krishna humbly bowed before Vishwamitra, Asita, Vasishtha, Narad, Kanva, Kashyap, Durvasa and other sages who had come to his father's house to perform sacrifice for the prosperity of the Yadus. When the rituals were complete and the sages ready to leave, Krishna accompanied them to the city gates along with his ministers and respectfully bade them farewell. On the Lord's suggestions, the sages then went to Pindarka, a nearby holy place on the coast. When the Lord's numerous sons happened to be spending leisure time, where the Lord's numerous sons happened to be spending leisure times, the boys were enjoying themselves on the beach when they saw the sages arrive to take their evening baths in the ocean. In the exuberance of youth, they decided to play a prank on the sages. Thus it was that the next morning, as the sages were completing their morning rituals, the boys approached them. They dressed Samba as a woman. Placing a cushion under his cloth to make it appear he was pregnant, with his head covered, Samba, acting like a shy maiden, was led by his brothers to where the sages stood. Feigning humility, the boys bowed at the sages and impudently said, "O learned Brahmins, this black-eyed pregnant woman has something to ask you. She is too embarrassed to inquire for herself. She is just about to give birth and very much desires a son. Since all of you are great sages with infallible vision, please tell us whether her child will be a boy or a girl." Immediately aware of the trickery, the sages looked one to the other. This was most surprising. They conferred telepathically, silently discussing how to respond. Sage Kanav raised an eyebrow. "The boys are mocking us, thinking we are ignorant about material affairs of sense gratification." Durvasa scowled. "This insolent behavior is deviation from the path of morality established by their father, Lord Krishna. They deserve to be punished." Vishwamitra agreed, "My dear Durvasa, Please remain peaceful. The princely descendants of the Yadu and Bhoja dynasties are not ordinary living beings. It is not their nature to be offensive, nor is it right for a self-realized sage to take offense for a slight misdemeanor. You're right, Vishwamitra said. Asit, it is not possible for these boys to act offensively, yet without a doubt they are ridiculing us. I feel there must be a divine plan unfolding. Narad agreed. This must be Krishna's will, especially as he suggested we visit this place. Why would the Lord want his sons to offend us? Asked Kashyap. In any case, I do not think it wise to become angry with such great personalities. Anger is the appropriate response when Krishna's devotees are offended, argued Durvasa. Yes, said Narad, this is the lesson Krishna wants to teach through his sons. So one should show anger when some devotees are offended. This is the lesson Krishna wanted to teach through his sons. No one, no matter how great or powerful, can avoid the reactions of offending devotees, besides which by cursing the boys we can also assist the Lord in winding up his earthly pastimes. So all these eternal associates understand this is all Leelas of the Lord, and they are cooperating in the Leelas of Lord. So that the pastimes on this earth are winded up, and they will continue in another universe. Some other universe, because the pastimes of the Lord are continuously happening in one or other universe. The sages all concurred. Their consultation had happened within moments. Inspired by the super soul, they spoke as one. Fools, she will bear you an iron club that will destroy your entire dynasty. The terrified boys quickly lifted Samba's sari, and to their horror, an iron club fell out. They immediately took it to Dwarka. Filled with remorse, they anxiously recounted all that had happened to King Ugrasen. The king turned pale, hoping to avert the curse, which is their great-grandfather. The king turned pale, hoping to avert the curse's terrible effects. He ordered, grind the club to powder and throw it far out to sea. After grinding the club, one small iron lump remained. That too was thrown into this water along with the iron powder and swallowed by a fish. This fish was later caught by the hunter Jara, who used the iron lump in its belly to make an arrowhead. Now, verses 25 to 28, which are the last verses of this chapter. A few months passed. Inspired by Krishna, those Yadu princes who were incarnations of the god went to Prabhas to perform a sacrifice. The others, who were eternal associates of the Lord from the spiritual world, remained in Dwarka. On arriving at Prabhas, the princes bathed in the ocean. Prabhas is a beach. Standing chest high in the gently lapping water, they offered prayers to the forefathers, gods, and great sages. Afterwards, they distributed countless cows to the local Brahmins in charity, along with gold, bedding, clothing, animal skin, seats, blankets, horses, elephants, brides, and sufficient land for maintenance. After offering the Brahmins delicious foodstuffs which had been offered to Vishnu, they respectfully bowed down before them, touching their foreheads to the ground. Now this last bit is from chapter 4, verses 1 to 2. When all the Brahmins were fully satisfied, the Yadu princes, taking their permission, sat down to eat. With their meal, they drank rice liquor. Becoming intoxicated, Satyaki remembered his grudge against Kritvarma for helping Ashwathama to kill the sleeping Pandava troops. In a loud mocking voice he berated him. What warrior with any prowess would kill sleeping men? Kritvarma, who was also intoxicated, in turn angrily insulted Satyaki for having killed and wounded the unarmed Bhurishwara in the Kurukshetra war. Satyaki pulled out his sword, rushed at Kritvarma and severed his head. Kritvarma's friends seized their weapons and set on Satyaki. Other heroes came to Satyaki's defense, and soon all the princes were grasping their weapons and mounting their animals or chariots to fight with one another. The iron dust which was previously thrown into the ocean had since washed ashore on the Prabhas beach. Those particles had somehow grown into tall, stout canes. As the sun began to set, their arrows and spears spent, the angry Yadu heroes pulled out those canes which were like iron rods. By the Lord's will, and because of the Brahman's curse, those inebriated warriors furiously attacked each other until they were all slain. So this brings us to the end of the chapter 3 of Canto 3, part 1, and we will continue with chapter 4, Krishna's departure, next time. Thank you for joining. Hare Krishna.